seeing her go through that and seeing these young adults say like, oh my gosh, this person is not calling anymore. We're going different ways. And it's like almost like a grief process. Wouldn't you say sometimes?
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because I use grief a lot and because I think like when we talk about grief, again, it's one of those words where you just go, oof, like, because it's one of those words that you think grieving a death. But I'm like, there's death of situations.
Of course.
There's, death of friendship. There's losses and everything. And sometimes, but there's a lot of times where you have to, because again, if you don't grieve that part, you can't move over here. Like I tell my people, I'm like, it's like you got one arm here, but you're still trying to hold on to all that. And it was funny. I even asked my one client that we were talking about the kind of outgrowing, and you could see her struggling. And I go, what is it in you that you're not okay, losing this friendship or, is it? And so sometimes it's like when we stay too long or when we're struggling, it's like, okay, is it them or is it me? Which goes back again to knowing you, what boundaries or, am I allowed or, it's just all these things. But no, absolutely. I would say you have to grieve that.
Yeah. And that's one thing it's the acceptance part of that too. But that, of course, is a part of the stage of grief. So, but I've noticed that too, of the young adults grieving that part of who they were. Like my son is doing a much better job of doing it, but Anaya, just her personality, she's having a harder time, I think, with that process. So.
Yeah. And, and she's still young too. So like at that age, like if you lose a friend, it's like, oh, the world's ending.
Yeah.
Even if that friend was not a good friend to you,
right.
Because sometimes it is one-sided where you like somebody so much and that, or they don't return that, or they're not as nice to you, but you still like that person. Right. But then the friendship ends and you still grieve that friendship,
Absolutely.
But I think, of course, the older we get,
I
the
know.
more wisdom hopefully we attain.
And it starts to become easier.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And what would you say, TJ, like would be like boundary issues that like you've seen that are either common with people or maybe something that you've experienced with boundary issues in friendships?
Well, I think sometimes you have those friends that they overstep or they overspeak. Right? Like I say, this is what I've told my adult daughters. The more you tell people, the more right you give them to speak into whatever your situation is. Because the first thing that we normally hear is, girl, if I were you, I wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. Or girl, you need to just cut him loose. Or girl, you just need to get another job. Girl, if I were you. And my main thing is, but you're not me. Right? I don't want to know what you would do. Right? Because sometimes what your friend would do is not always the right thing to do. But I see a lot of, from friendship to friendship, like a lot of overstepping, or a lot of overspeaking or
unsolicited advice.
Right, unsolicited advice.
One of my things I hate.
Right, unsolicited advice. And then when you say, well, you know what? I understand that, but I'm going to choose to do this. And then they get all upset. Like that's been a personal experience of mine. But then I also have clients who have said the same, or they're like, well, I don't really want to say anything to my friend because I don't want to lose the friendship. And I said, well, if you're stuck on losing the friendship's not intact anyway, because I'm not stuck on losing a friendship. Mm-hmm. If I'm having an issue, and of course I've had to learn this. So it
takes time.
Right. Mm-hmm. If there's something that I really think that is hindering the friendship or stopping the friendship from continuing, I have to speak to it. Now, I'll process it first, but I have to speak to it because if not, we can't move into the direction that we want to move in. There's going to be something that's going to stop it. And, I've had a friendship like that and I'm like, I can't go back to my old ways because my old ways was disconnect. And I'm like, I'm good. We don't have to continue this friendship, but I'm trying to, not allow that to stop the friendship, especially if the friendship is worth saving. You know what I mean? So I think that's like the biggest thing I see a lot of girl, if I were you, girl, if I were you, girl, you should, and I think sometimes, and I'm learning to be this friend too. Sometimes just listen and I'll ask, would you like me to give you some advice on that? Or do you just want me to just, listen, and a lot of times friends, they don't expect that. So they're like, oh yeah, I just want to vent.
Right.
And so they vent and with no judgment.